What is security? Another name for that is collateral. Let's read this together. Security is anything of value pledged by the borrower that the lender may sell or keep if the borrower does not repay the loan. So if you cannot repay the loan, how much you borrow, they can take anything from you, right? And they have the right to sell that or keep it, right? That is the security. How about the co-signer? For the minor people, how many of you are minor still? None of you? You're all adults? Wow. So you don't need a co-signer then, do you? I don't think either. Okay, so under, I think 18. Is it 20 or 18? I think 18. 20? No. Does anybody know that?
I think it's either 18 or 19.
Okay, either 18 or 19. Okay, so you need to have a co-signer. There should be an adult who guarantees the loan will be repaid. Usually your parents do that job, right? Okay. Lastly, oh no, we have two more. Personal note. Personal note is agreement and contract, which states the terms and conditions of the loan. It's gonna talk about from what date to what date and how much you're borrowing and what's the interest rate, things like that will be all on the personal note. What is the interest? When you're borrowing the money, you're not just paying how much you're borrowing, right? You have to pay the extra money. So the money that you are paying extra, that's called interest. It can be determined by the interest rate. It can be determined by the principal, how much you are borrowing, and also the time, right? So we're going to talk about simple interest today. Simple interest is a simple one. It's the easier one. Another interest we're going to talk about later is compound interest. It's a little bit more confusing. But simple interest, very simple. You just need to remember this formula. Interest is PRT. P, principal, R, rate, T, time. Using this formula, you can just find the interest right away. So let's consider that. Interest. How much you are paying extra. It depends on how much you are borrowing, right? So that's the principal. And it depends how much rate they are applying to, right? So if they are asking you to pay 5%, it's much more than 2%. So depending on what the rate is, interest changes. Also, how long you want to borrow that money will change how much interest you are paying for, right? So simple interest will be directly affected by principal, rate, and time. Usually, what is fixed here? Is time always fixed? Or you can change the time of paying back? Principal is how much you are borrowing, right? So you can change that too. You can borrow $1,000, $2,000, $10,000. It can be changed too. But rate is usually fixed. So you are thinking back to direct variation. What was the direct variation?
D equals K.
Y equals kx, yeah, something like that. So x variable goes up, then y variable goes up too. So it's directly changing. If x variable, your independent variable goes down, your dependent variable goes down too, right? So this is kind of direct variation. So rate is usually fixed, but we can change the rate too, okay? If principal goes up, interest goes up. If rate goes up, interest goes up. In time, the duration of your borrowing money goes longer, of course your interest goes up too. You can kind of see the relationship there. Does it make sense? Okay, so let's remember I is equal to PRT. A lot of times students get confused I with P. I is only the interest. It's not talking about how much you're borrowing and how much you're paying back. You need to add how much you borrowed by the interest to pay back. So you are not only paying back how much you borrowed, but you are adding the interest to it. You are not just paying back the interest, but you are to pay back how much you borrowed along with the interest, right? Okay, that's how our society goes. So let's remember that. So we know that principal is the amount of money that is lent, or is the rate of interest expressed as a decimal usually. Usually it's gonna be given as percentage, right? But we know how to change the percentage to either decimal or fraction, right? So you're gonna use that real number. Time is either number of days, number of months, number of years. It's gonna be different. Usually in our context, we are gonna be given annual interest. Annual interest. What does annual mean? Yearly, right? So every year. So we're talking about a year. So sometimes you are borrowing by month. Let's say 9 months. Then you need to have 9 divided by 12 because in a year there are 12 months, right? So you need to change everything to a year and you need to look at the ratio there. Does it make sense? Okay. So let's take a look at some more concepts here. What is ordinary interest? Most common type of a simple interest. And each month, rather than having 28 days for the February and one month it has 31 days, January, March, May, July, August, October, and December has 31 days, right? So we just say every month has 30 days, okay? And a year has 12 months. So if we have a 12 month and each month is 30 days, 12 times 30 is 360 days rather than 365 days, okay? So when we are doing ordinary interest, we are considering the time as 1 year, same as 12 months, or 360 days. Okay, and each month will be counted as 30 days. So we can be, kind of fair to each month. Okay, so remember that, and let's think about this question. Sherry needs to borrow $6,200 to replace the roof on her home. Whenever you are given a word problem, please put yourself in it. You are facing this situation, okay? Relate yourself to this. So let's say you or your dad is borrowing money, $6,200 to replace your roof, okay? From Sherry is a girl, sorry. Your mom is borrowing money to replace the roof on her home. From her credit union, Sherry obtains a 30-month loan with an annual simple interest rate of 5.75%. So we are given how much money she's borrowing. Principal. We are given time, 30 months. We are given interest rate, annual interest rate, annual simple interest rate, 5.75%. So we have PRT. So we can simply just find the interest using the formula. Do you agree? Yes. So let's calculate the simple interest she's charged on the loan. So shall we do this together? I will do this first problem with you, and from the next problem, I will let you the answers. So pay attention to this. So let's take a look. We know that P, principal, is 6,200. What is the rate? Simple interest rate, annual simple interest rate. 5.75%. In other words, what is that? What is that in decimal?
0.0.
We need to move decimal point to the left by 2 digits because we are dividing by 100. So if you move that to 2, place value, where does it go? Here. We need to put another 0 there. We have 0.0575. That is your interest rate. How about the time? 30 months, right? Okay. 30 months. Again, this is annual simple interest. So you need to consider only 1 year. So if it is 1 year, it's gonna be how many months? 12 months. So your time will be divided by the 12 months, which is 30 over 12. Both are divisible by 6. 2. What's 5 over 2? Half of 5. 2.5? So your time is 2.5 years. Okay? That's the number of years. So we have all the numbers, principal, rate, and the time. Now we can find A. Calculate the simple interest. So I is what? PRT, right? PRT. Principal, 6,200. R, rate, 0.0575. And time, 2.5. You simply multiply them together using your calculator. And what do you get?
891.25.
Oh, thank you. 891.25. Thank you. That is just interest, right? That's just interest. Now, part B is asking you to determine the amount principal plus interest Sherry will pay the credit union back at the end of the 30 months, right? So how much does she need to pay back then?
Interest plus
Principal, right? How much did she borrow? She borrowed $6,200, so she needs to pay back. Also, she needs to pay the interest. So when you add these two together, that's how much she needs to pay. So it makes sense, right? It's gonna be what?
7,091.
So $7,091.25 is how much she needs to pay back. So you got some idea, right? Okay, it's not too bad. All right. Then let me give you some more examples. Okay, here. Dylan agrees to lend $850 to his friend Joe to help Joe travel to Cincinnati. So you are Dylan now, okay? You agree to lend $850 to your friend, okay, for him to travel to attend a family wedding. 9 months later, hey, think about the time. It's only 9 months, not 12 months, not a year, right? 9 months later, Joe repaid the original $850 plus $51 interest. What annual rate of interest did Joe pay to Philip? So I want you guys to set up an equation here. On your paper, set up an equation, how to solve this problem. I can randomly call your name, okay? So we know I is PRT. What is P? Principal. How much is the principal in this situation? 850. How about R? That's what we need to find, right? We're not given R, but we are given I. We are given I actually. So I is how much? 51? Yes. P is given, I is given, R is not. How about the time? 9 months. That's not 1 year, right? How many years, how many months is 1 year? 12 months. So what do we need to do? Divide it by 12. So T is 9 over 12, or 0.75. So using these information, can you find what R is? Can you find what R is? Yes, right? because I is PRT. Just plug it in. What's I? 51. So 51 is P. 850 times what is R? R, we need to find what R is. So R, P. 0.75. Now we can just simply solve for R, right? Here we can use commutative property 850 times 0.75 or directly divide everything by 850 and divide it by 0.75. You can do either way, right? So which way do you want to do? You want to divide everything by 850? Okay, let's do that. So divide everything by 850 and then we can divide everything by 0.75. Then this will be cancelled, this will be cancelled, leaving only R, right? So to make the equality still equal, you need to do the same thing on the other side too. Times 0.75. Does it make sense? Yeah, so this will be gone and this will be gone. So we have only R. R is 51 divided by 850 times 0.75. And what do we get then? 0.08. Did you get the same thing? Is anybody else checking? I trust Shane, but just in case, I want any of you use this. Is there anybody who wants to be a checker? You did? You got the same answer? Okay. So that's nice. Okay, so R is 0.08. So then we are done, right? It says R is 0.08. We usually write the interest rate in percent. So what is that? 8%. Nice, right? Okay. Do you think it's kind of expensive? High rate or low rate? What did you say? Would you take that? If you were Philip, will you agree to this rate? Some no, some yes. $51, 8%. Well, we give about little less than 7% of sales tax. So I think it's kind of expensive. If you're a good friend, why would you? I don't know. You may have different opinion, but anyways. Okay, good job, guys. Let's do one more. Here we go. To obtain money for new eyeglasses, Gilbert decides to pawn his trumpet. Ooh, I don't think pawning is a good idea. Gilbert borrows $240 and after 30 days, so just 1 month out of 12 months, or 30 days out of how many days? 360 days, you're gonna get the same answer. So that's the time, okay? And $240 should be your principal, how much you're borrowing. Okay, so we got already 2 information there. After 30 days, gets his trumpet back by paying the pawnbroker $288. What does that tell you? When he pays that $288, is that an interest? Solely? There we go. This includes how much he borrowed and the interest, right? So how much is the interest then? He actually borrowed the 240, now he's paying back 288. So what is the interest? $48, right? So out of 288, 240 should be principal, the sole principal, but $48 should be the interest. Now you are given all the information that you have, right? So Kelsey, can you help me? Tell me what you know.
So it would be, you would set it up similar to the previous one we did.
So I will use I equals PRT?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me what you know. What's I?
So the interest would be the $48.
48. I is 48. I agree. How about P?
Would that would be the 240?
Awesome. How about R?
The rate we don't know.
We don't know that. Okay, T.
And then 3 would be the 30 days.
30 days.
Over the annual, so it'd be over 12.
Oh, 30 is days. So you need to have
Okay.
days here or month over month.
Okay.
So how many days? Because it's annual rate. It's 360 days, right? Rather than 365 days. So when you're taking a look at that, 30 over 360 days is what? 1 over 12. That's same as 1 month over 12 months. It's exactly the same thing. Okay? So you can simplify that as 1/12. So we have 48. Very good. Very good. Thank you, Kelsey. 240 times R times 1/12. We can already simplify here because 240 and 12 both are divisible by 12, right? So divide 12 by 12 and 240 by 12. What is it? 20? Okay. So now we have 48 is equal to 20R. What would you do now to solve for R? Yes, to divide both sides by 20. What is R then? 48 divided by 20. 2.4. Wow, 2.4. So if it is 2.4, that's not percentage, right? What is the percentage for that? Oh my God, 200? It's 240%. Did you take that? No, no. That's way, way, way too much, isn't it? Don't ever borrow money from pawn. They usually have a really, really high interest rate. 240% of the interest rate. That was off, right? Okay, so we got the idea. Very, very nice, guys. Okay, so let's take a look at the next slide. So I have another, no, I have a new concept here. Discount note. When we are buying something at a supermarket or at a store, we look at discount a lot of times, right? So when you are borrowing money, it's a little bit different. They are saying they give us discount. So let's see what the bank discount means. Okay. So the discount note is this. The interest is paid at the time the borrower receives the loan. The interest charged in advance. So you are paying the interest in advance. So for example, if you are borrowing $100 and your interest is $10, then instead of giving you $100, they're gonna give you only $90, taking off the interest at the beginning. Does it make sense? That is discount note, bank discount. A little bit different concept, right? So for example, Sigrid took out a $500 loan using 10% discount note for a period of 3 months. And you need to determine the interest she must pay to the bank. So in order to do this, you need to consider the situation. This one. We don't have space here, but let's take a look at this. Okay, so I will do this problem with you guys, okay? Sigrid took out $500 loan. So what is the principal here? Yeah, 500 is the principal and 10% discount note. So your R is 10%, right? And the time is what? 3 months? 3 months over 12. What's 3 over 12? 1/4 or 0.25? Okay. 10% is what? In euro? Point 1. Okay, thank you. So how much will they take out of your money? So your interest should be PRT 500 times or 0.1 times T 0.25. That's your interest, right? Okay, now what is that? Can anybody calculate that? 500 times 0.1 times 0.25. Can you say that again?
I got 12.5.
12.5. Can anybody check this answer? Yeah. Okay, so interest is 12.5. So using the discount note, what would the bank do? They're gonna give you not $500, but taking this much away from $500 is they're gonna give you, right? So actually you are not getting $500, but they're gonna give you 500 minus $12.50, which is
$487.50.
yes, that's how much you are getting. So that's becoming your new principal. So let's look at the first question. The interest she must pay to the bank on the day she receives the loan. What is the interest she must pay to the bank on the day she receives the loan? We need to find that. We already found the interest here, right? $12.50. B, the net amount of money she receives from the bank. So this is the amount she's receiving from the bank. C, the actual rate of interest for the loan then. Okay, now take a look at this again. She's not getting $500. She's actually getting $487.50. So that is actually your principal, isn't it? And how much interest is this one? And we're gonna find out the actual rate using this principle. So actually we are getting I equals PRT. We have $12.50 as the interest. And principal is not $500 because that's not how much she's got, but she actually got $487.50. That's the principal. And what is the actual rate? We don't know. We figure it out. How about the time? It's the same time, right? 0.25. 0.25. Does this make sense? So let's use our number sense. Do you think this rate will be higher or lower than 10%? Do you think this rate will be higher or lower than 10%? So consider first problem before you have discount there. Your principal was $500. Okay, and you have interest rate there, and the time is the same. What has changed is principal only. When your principal is going up to make this exactly same interest there, think about it. If this money goes higher, this will go higher too, right? But to make this the same, and you are lowering this down, what will happen here? This number, so let me write it again.
Slightly higher.
Let's take a look at that. 25 is 12.5. So if this is 0.1%, it is exactly like that. Okay. This is fixed, this is fixed, and this is fixed. Now I'm gonna change this. It's not fixed anymore. If this goes down and you have something times something times something, and you're gonna have this exactly the same money, but you are lowering this down, what had to happen to this one? It has to go up to compensate it, right? If I make this money goes up and the interest is fixed, of course you need to lower your interest rate, right? So let's take a look at that again. You are lowering this money to $487. So use your number sense, okay? Your principal got lower, but you're still paying the same money. Then what would happen? Interest rate should be higher than before. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? Yeah, so using your intuition, you can think that, oh, your rate should be higher than previous because your principal is lower, but you're still paying the same interest. If your principal was lower, you need to pay less interest, right? But your principal got lower, but you are still paying the same. That means your interest rate should be higher, right? So we kind of know that, oh, in this case, R should be greater than 0.1. So if your answer is not greater than 0.1, something went wrong, okay? So you can check that. Okay, so let's think about this one now. To solve for R, what can we do? You can divide both sides by what? 487.50, 487.50, and also you can divide that by 0.25. 0.25. So these will be cancelled. And what is R then? 12.5 divided by 487.50 times 0.25, right? What do you get?
9.75.
Can you say that again?
I got 9.75.
9.75.
75.
Something went wrong. I think it's kind of too big.
I got 0.1225.
Yeah, Kelsey, can you check that again? I think you divide this by that and then multiply this whole thing by 0.25. It's actually in denominator, so you need to divide that by 0.25. So what did you get?
0.102.
0.102. 0.10. I think that's more like it. Can somebody check it? You got it? Shane?
Yeah, it'd be 0.103 because there's a 5 after
Yeah.
the 2.
Okay, so it's about 0.103 then? Okay, if I round it, okay, so it makes more sense to us now because R is very close to 0.1, 0.103, it's very close to 0.1, but it is greater than 0.1, right? Okay, so actual rate should be 0.103. Change that to percentage, what is it? 10.3%, about 10.3%, rather than 10%. Make sense? Okay, awesome. Yeah, so they are saying they're giving you discount, but they are actually applying higher rate without telling us, right? Okay, so let's be smart. All right. Yeah, so I will give you example for you to solve now. Okay, here we go. It's gonna be a little bit harder than previous examples. So Ronnie owns a snow plowing business. He needs to purchase a new plow for the front of his truck, but does not have the $1,600 purchase price. The equipment dealership has two payment options. So you need to do both of them. Option one, Ronnie can pay $800 as a down payment and then pay $850 in 6 months. With option two, Ronnie can pay $400 as a down payment and then pay $1,380 in 9 months. We're gonna think about which option has a higher annual simple interest rate. Why do we do that? Because we don't wanna have a higher interest rate, right? Okay. We wanna pay less interest. When we are comparing these two. If it's overwhelming, just stick with the one option first, okay? Think about the first option only. Then, if you have time, Go to the second option. Everybody try this, okay? So we know that he's borrowing $1,600, right? That can be what? It can be principal. You agree? So we know the P is $1,600. Okay. Now, in the first option, Ronnie can pay $800 as down payment. So taking $800, how much he needs to pay back? For the first option, how much he needs to pay back? Actually, he needs to pay $800. That becomes the actual principal then, because we are dealing with how much he needs to pay back, right? So that is not the principal. This is a principal. So let's take a look at that. It's a new principal now because we are not thinking about paying back $1,600, but we are looking at the interest rate. So $800 is your new principal. Do you agree? Okay. And now take a look at this. Ronnie can pay $800 as down payment, so he needs to pay $800 back, but then he's paying $850 instead of $800. So what is the interest? He's not paying back $800, but he's paying $850, which means $50 is the interest. So interest is $50, right? So these two together makes $850. Do you agree? Now we know what is the interest. We know principal. We know the time. It says in 6 months. What is that? 6 months out of how many months? 12 months, which is half. So it's in 0.5 in decimal. So we are given all of this information. We are given principal, we are given interest, and we are given time. We just need to figure out the interest rate. So let's use that. I is equal to PRT. What is I? Let's plug it in. 50. What is P? 800. What is R? I don't know. Let's state it R1 because it's option 1. Time. Combined. You don't have to put this into parentheses. I'm just writing it because it's kind of confusing with the decimal dots here. Okay, it's not necessary. We can do that. Okay, now we can divide both sides by 800. Divide both by 800. Then divide both sides again by 0.5. Remember, this is dividing, okay? 0.5. What do we get in R1? Anybody? What?
12.5%.
12.5? Everybody got the same one? 12.5. Okay. How about in option 2? So that's your interest rate. I think that's really big number.
That's the first.
For percentage, right? You got that as percentage. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so you're gonna get 0.1 to 5 there. So changing that to percentage, you get 12.5%. Now let's look at option 2. Option 2, Ronnie can pay $400 as a down payment. So he's gonna pay $400 as down payment. So how much does he need to pay back more? $1,200. That becomes your principal, right? And now, let's see. So instead of paying back $1,200, he's paying back $1,380. Actually, he's paying back $1,380. What does that mean? What is the interest? You take away 1,200, right? Yes, so $180. That is your principal. Interest. Yes. So we got principal and interest. What else? We need to have time. 9 months, right? Time. 9 months. So we're talking about annual rate, so we need to divide it by 12 months. 0.75. Thank you. So we were given principal, interest, and the time. So using PRT, I is equal to PRT. We can just plug it in, right? Our I is 180. Our P is 1200. R, we don't know, so let's put that as R2 because it's in option 2. Okay? T, time, 0.75. So we can divide both sides by 1200, and divide that again by 0.75. By this by 0.75 as well. And your R2 is what? 0.2. 0.2 or 20%. Thank you. So second option, you have 20%. First option, you have 12.5% of annual interest. So what's the question? Which option has a higher annual simple interest rate? Which one has a higher interest rate? 2. So which option would you take? First option, I would do too. Big difference, right? Okay, so we can be smart. Nice. Okay. I don't think we have enough time for this one. So banker's rule, we will work on that